Welcome to the Millionaire Money Mindset channel. If you like the video, please hit the subscribe button and the bell beside. It helps us spread the word and reach out more like-minded people like yourself. Alright, Bitcoin, blockchain, Dogecoin, Ethereum, NFTs. Everyone is talking about cryptocurrencies right now. But good lord, what does all of it mean? Welcome to the one video that will take you from crypto noob to crypto genius. I'm going to tell you 1. What it is, and 2. Why it keeps becoming more important. Okay, so when society was in its early stages, there was no such thing as money. We'll call this stage 1. The only way to buy something off someone was to go up to them and be like, "Oh, I really like your horse, I'll trade you my cat for it." But the issue with a system like that is that, even though you might be perfectly happy to give up your horse, you just might not want a cat. So that trade will never happen. That's where currency came in. Stage 2, coins. Which, because they were made of precious materials like gold and silver, everyone just accepted that they were worth something. You've heard of the British pound, right? Well, the reason they're called pounds is because 1 pound literally just used to be 1 pound of silver. And so, all of a sudden, in a trade it doesn't matter if you don't want my cat. As long as I have coins, we can still trade for your horse, even if you have no use at all for the silver. Because it's a precious material, you have that reassurance that you can take that coin, give it to someone else, and trade for something that you do want. Convenient, right? But then this evolved to stage 3. As banks became established and governments had control, we realized that as long as there was trust in the system, we could move away from needing to carry blocks of precious metal towards something even more convenient: paper money. It does the same thing, but now the money doesn't have value because it's made of pure silver, it just has value because the government says it has value. Like a 10-pound note in the UK, the note itself is just made of plastic. But if you look closely, you can see that all this actually is the Bank of England promising that they will pay the bearer of this note £10. Really, this is just a receipt of a kind of proof that you own a certain amount of money. But as technologies improved even further, we found even more convenient ways of storing and trading our stuff. We're now in what I would call stage 4, where more people than ever are buying things online and using credit cards, and really, when you're at that stage, we don't see our money anymore. It's not about coins, or notes, or cats. It's just entries on a spreadsheet. Like when I buy a music album from Amazon, all that's happening is that my bank adds an entry in my spreadsheet that says I now have $10 less, and then Amazon's bank adds an entry that says they have $10 more. So, the reason I've given you this entire intro is to give you context on where cryptocurrency sits. It's seen by many people as the most convenient era of exchange ever. Stage 5. The way to think about a cryptocurrency is that it's 100% virtual. I know the logo for Bitcoin kind of looks like a physical coin. But with crypto, there is no gold, there is no silver, there is no paper. It really is just the transfer of digital assets. The core concept is exactly the same. Think of them as literally just running spreadsheets of who's paid what to who. But instead of multiple banks keeping their own separate records with crypto, there is just one enormous spreadsheet of every transaction made using that currency, and this is called a ledger. Okay. We all have a good spreadsheet, but what's all the fuss about? Why is everyone going crypto crazy? Well, there are some distinct advantages to a currency system like this one. It's decentralized, which means that while every transaction of a given cryptocurrency is all recorded on the same ledger, there are many copies of that ledger, and anyone who is a part of the network has one. You might have heard of cryptocurrency mining, or Bitcoin mining. Well, all that is someone who set up a computer to crunch through transactions on their copy of this ledger, or spreadsheet. There are already about 1 million Bitcoin miners around the world, and Bitcoin is just one type of cryptocurrency. The reason they're doing it is if you dedicate your computer's power to mining, say, Bitcoin, then you will earn some Bitcoin as compensation. So the result of this is that if I go into a store and spend 5 Bitcoins on something, then instead of just checking with one bank's records, the shop instead checks with every single computer on this network if I have enough. And assuming I do, each computer will give the go-ahead, and then every single one will update their records independently. So, because you end up having these many copies of exactly the same ledger, it becomes very easy to tell if anyone's trying anything fishy. Like if I try to hack into someone's computer that's on the network and give myself more money by adjusting figures on their copy of the ledger, it's not going to get through. The system will realize that 99.9% of the copies on the ledger are saying one thing, but one of them is saying something else, so must have been tampered with. There's very clear organization to the system, and I think people believe in it because they see the future as open traceable transactions. Much more so than having like some bits of the record over here and other bits over there. And I know it seems complex at this point, but as we go through this, I think you'll realize that for a lot of people, in a way it's simpler. There are plenty of areas in the world that have internet access, but don't have access to traditional banks, which require a lot of paperwork and documentation. The main perk of crypto is that you don't need banks anymore. Because everything is stored by the people on this ledger, you can make international payments almost instantly instead of it taking half a day, with no spending limits. Plus, you don't need to worry about exchange rates, you don't need to worry about interest rates, and even transaction fees are close to zero for some cryptocurrencies. But this is where the real fun begins. The reason that cryptocurrencies are called cryptocurrencies is because they're secured by cryptography. And one example of this, which a lot of the major cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin use, is blockchain. Now people often get confused by this. Blockchain is not Bitcoin, blockchain is not a currency itself. Blockchain is just a secure type of ledger. You know that big spreadsheet that everyone has that's recording transactions? Blockchain is just a way of organizing it, funnily enough, into blocks. So every time I pay for something with Bitcoin, that transaction is recorded as a block. Each block contains transaction data, like who was paid and how much, a hash which is a unique identifier, and the hash of the previous block in the sequence, or the last transaction that was recorded. The pivot on which this system rests is that, if something in a block is changed, then that block's hash will change. You might be starting to see where this is going. Because each block also contains the data of the previous block, if the hash of the block here changes, then the next block will no longer have a matching hash with it. And so, every subsequent block after that one becomes invalid. So, if you combine this with what we talked about earlier, this whole idea of a million different users all having their own copy of the blockchain ledger, then, if I wanted to fraudulently create a transaction that, say, paid me money, I'd have to not just tamper with a block and every single block after it, but I'd also have to do this on at least 500,000 computers around the world, so that the majority of computers in the system are also consistent with the one I've tampered with. Probably not gonna happen. Whereas, just hacking into someone's dollar account and sending myself money, that does happen. And it's sometimes as simple as just literally guessing someone's 6-digit PIN. But there's a massive jump between that and trying to hack into 500,000 uncorrelated computers at once. Okay, so cryptocurrencies have their issues. We will discuss in another video, but hopefully you can see why some people are excited about them. If you like the video, please hit the subscribe button and the bell beside. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.